I'm Christian Loffler.
Hey, how you doing, guys? It's Gavin here from Hologram Productions. And today we're going to be focusing on the organic down-tempo melodic electronica from the German producer Christian Loffler. The main track we're going to focus on is a track called Beirut from his album Young Alaska, as you can hear here. And to break down some of the elements that we're going to need to get some Zoom mic foley for the background, off-grid sine wave arpeggios, also some off-grid sub-bass hits, a deep thumping kick, and foley hats and claps. So all of the sounds which are created in this video will be available in the Christian Loffler sample pack on my Bandcamp page, including a whole bunch of other bonus sounds. And if you want to play around with the MIDI, you can get the MIDI pack on my Hologram Productions website, and the links for both are in the description. So let's start off with in my opinion, the hardest thing to get right with Christian Loffler is the kick. You need a very particular sounding kick, which I found in this organic sample pack. So you take this kick, and you use a Corpus preset called Kick Tight at about 20% to give it a bit more boom, and then you glue it down a little bit. Oh yeah, that email address is popping up. If you want one-on-one tuition or personal tutorial, contact me on that email straight away. So, some claps I took from a YouTube video called Clapping Music for 5 Musicians, and I chopped them up, put a bit of glue on it to get rid of the tight, sharp transient, EQ'd it off. The clap is going to need multiple organic layers, including a sound effect loop of axe chopping, another loop which is a traditional clap loop, but we tighten the transients, glue them down, sharpen it using saturation. And then this is just another foley layer of me kicking the side of a dumpster, I think. Glue it down, heavy saturation, and then roll off the lows. But I felt it needed even more layers, so here's another one. More wooden clanking foley sounds. I just put it in slice mode in simpler and found some transients, glued them down, roll off the lows. And then one last one. From a drum rack, a whole bunch of organic hits, and I quite like the sound of this one, and I ran it through Portal to just give a bit of grain delay. Glued it down, rolled off the lows, and you group all of the claps together, and on the group bus, glue multiband compression, saturation, and sidechain to the kick. And all together, lovely. Now for some high-end textures. This is just the sound of me hitting the side of a metal object, transposed up, transients down, ran it through a reverb, rolled off the lows and the super highs. And even more textures, throwing a twig snapping foley sound, and then adding some hits and textures in slice mode and simpler, and running it through the Blias Granulator multibus Dream preset. And for the hi-hats, using a chain sound effect, combining two of them with slightly different sounds, and give a bit of movement. DS them, put them in mono, because I recorded the sound effects in stereo, glue them down, and you're good to go. Cool, so now let's move on to the bass. Operator, sine wave, short attack, short release, one oscillator, turn on a second oscillator at minus 29 dB, FM synthesis, and then use the following audio rack to thicken it up. Sidechain it to the kick. This is what it sounds like when you hit the beats on grid. I think it sounds good, but it sounds a lot better when you move them around and play them in manually. So it sounds like this. It sounds a bit lazier and much truer to the way the bass line works in the Beirut track. Then you group the kick and the bass together, add a little bit of glue, a little bit of drum bus, and also a small amount of FabFilter Saturn. As a secondary bass, bounce this line to audio, which looks like this, transpose it up, and then we're going to run a bunch of audio effects through it, such as chorus, grain delay on the following settings, and then run it through a hybrid reverb, and together they sound like this. it's time to move on to wavetable, sine wave, short attack, short release. Dial in these offbeat notes. These are on grid. Then you turn on the noise algorithm, run it through Portal, Heaven Revival preset at about 20%. Run it through the dark snare room hybrid reverb, which has a bit of noise in it, which sounds cool. Glue it down a little bit, but not too much, so make sure you limit the range. A little bit of drum bus to thicken the sound. You can also use a grain delay to achieve the same sound as Portal, but again, it sounds better if you dial in the MIDI manually and move the notes around, so it's lazier. So with the kick and the bass, it sounds like this. Playing your MIDI in manually for the bass and the lead is what distinguishes Loffler from, say, Anjuna Deep Organic House. It's very important. Now let's make a pad duplicating exactly the same sound, except running it through a very, very heavy washed out reverb and a bit of redux to give a bit of noise texture. Using the following MIDI notes. Heavy reverb, glue it down, thicken it with drum bus, and then make sure you're rolling down any EQ build-ups. Group them both together and throw in a little bit of OTT in the group to add some air to the sound. Now, it wouldn't be a Loffler track if we didn't add a whole bunch of stuff. And that stuff comes in the form of foley. Foley loop number 1, me recording me inside a room. Foley number 2, me recording me going for a walk in the forest in the rain. Both of them together, glue them, sidechain them to the kick, and have some rolling off of the highs. And together with the lead and pad, it sounds like this. Now it's time to listen to the entire track. So if you want to inspire yourself to make similar music, you start off by just playing in some sine wave plucks, give a bit of noise, roll it through Portal, have a sidechain for the kick ready, EQ off the lows, duplicate the line, and then have a descending MIDI line, same instrument. Straight away, a million ideas are coming into my head. Then a third line, same instrument, running it through Portal. Group all of these together and run them through Submarine Space Hybrid Reverb. Get ready to sidechain that to the kick, rolling off the lows. And then you add the kick. You've already got a Christian Loffler track half completed. Throw in some vinyl crackle for texture. Throw in me playing around with my guitar. Quantize everything to create some beats. Add a reverb. Add a nice hi-hat. Let's make a pad using my beautiful voice. Into simpler. Filter out the highs. Glue it down. Multiband compression to compress the mids. Run it through Valhalla Supermassive. Roll off the lows. Add a bit of redux for grit. Sidechain it to the kick. Don't forget the bass preset from earlier on in the video and make sure it's nicely sidechained to the kick. Beautiful. Now all we need is my beautiful singing voice. Absolutely beautiful stuff. I should probably sing for a living. So second plug, there's the email. If you want to contact me for one-on-one support, I can teach you how to make pretty much any kind of music and remake any sounds that you like. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial and that it's going to inspire you to go off and make your own music. So don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.